I had a huge fight with Michael Stan. It got ugly enough that I wish we could die of old age without ever seeing each other again. And then, not long after we'd blown up, I found out I was pregnant. My face went stiff as I stared at the doctor in disbelief. "You're not mistaken, are you?" The doctor pushed up his glasses. "Nope," I said. "But I'm an alpha." The doctor dropped a bomb. "Then your partner's pretty impressive." Clutching the test results as I walked out of the hospital, I felt like my whole world had gone off kilter. I took a few steps, then squatted by the roadside and thumped my head. Overwhelmed with regret, passersby looked at me like I was an idiot. But none of that mattered anymore, because what I'd just been hit with was far more shocking than a little public embarrassment. Me and Alpha was pregnant, and the worst part was, just 2 days ago, I'd had a falling out with the kid's other father. A spectacularly nasty one. How nasty? The never speak again even if we die kind of nasty. Michael Stan and I were both alphas. Logically speaking, we shouldn't even have been able to make this happen. But isn't there a saying? Beauty ruins a man. I'd lost my mind because of his face. A gorgeous face would have been enough. But he also had this little, wickedly tempting mole at the corner of his mouth. Sure, he was an alpha, but if you ignored that detail, I genuinely wanted him badly. I coaxed and sweet-talked and schemed, determined to bring the beauty home with me. Unfortunately, that beauty was a high, cold flower on an unreachable peak. He wasn't about to step off his pedestal for just anyone. I chased him for half a month. He didn't even blink. Then, finally, I caught a break. The beauty went into his sensitive period. And the result? He still had the energy to fight me, and even more humiliating, I lost. I planned to pull the beauty into my arms. Instead, the beauty pulled me into his. Fine. Whatever, chasing a beauty takes patience. You have to be willing to put in effort. You can't catch a wolf without bait. After that battle, Michael stopped ignoring me. He was even pretty nice to me. But the problem was, why was it always me getting pinned? No way, my original goal was to pin him. After the nth time I couldn't beat Michael and ended up getting pressed down, we had our worst fight yet. What is wrong with you? I'm an alpha. I've thrown my pride in the trash and let you have your way with me this many times. How hard would it be to let me have one time? Michael folded his arms, looked me over, and gave a scornful laugh. Did I force you? Who was it that kept clinging to me? And who was it that tried to take advantage of me during my sensitive period? You know exactly what you were thinking. You brought this on yourself. Who are you putting on this tragic little act for? He wasn't wrong, technically, but it was still nasty to hear. I couldn't help arguing back. I'm an alpha too. I can't just keep getting pushed down by you forever. Michael turned and walked away. Michael, you asshole. Fine, you've got guts. If you walk out today, I'll act like I never knew you. We'll never see each other again, and I won't humiliate myself like this anymore. Michael's hand paused on the door handle just for a fraction of a second. Then he said, "Whatever." And just like that, the door slammed shut, sharp and final, and he left without the slightest hesitation. That same day, I was so furious I blocked every single way of contacting him. I swore I'd go back to being a normal alpha. But what kind of normal alpha gets pregnant with another alpha's kid? I'd said all that tough talk to Michael, but now I had no choice. I had to find him first. If I told my parents directly, they'd probably explode on the spot. Gritting my teeth, I took Michael off my blacklist. I sent him a message only to get a red exclamation mark. Oh, great, I played myself. He blocked me too, so I couldn't reach him by phone. Couldn't I just go intercept him in person? That was how I ended up waiting on the route he had to take after work. When Michael saw me, he didn't react at all. He simply tried to walk past me. I hurried to stop him. Wait. He didn't even look at me properly. Oliver George, didn't you say you'd never see me again, and you wouldn't debase yourself like this? My teeth itched with rage, but I didn't feel like wasting time bickering. I'm here for something serious. He stopped and looked at me, amusement flickering in his eyes. Oh, what now? Some new trick? Before this, whenever I wanted to get him to go out with me, I latched on like a burr and made up every excuse imaginable. But this time wasn't an excuse. I bit my lip. The words were hard to say. Michael watched me, and his patience seemed to be running out. When he looked like he was about to leave again, I blurted out, I'm pregnant. Michael's brows drew together. I couldn't tell what he was thinking. I stared at him, tense, swallowing hard. After a long moment, he gave a short, derisive laugh. Oliver, you think I'll get jealous if I hear that? You're really using a clumsy stunt like this to get my attention. Damn it, this smug bastard. How could he be this confident? I ground my teeth, couldn't hold it in anymore, and shouted, Jealous my ass, it's your kid. Michael looked at me like he'd seen a ghost. The corner of his mouth twitched. Don't tell me An alpha like you got pregnant. I knew it was hard to believe, but it was true. So I simply shoved the report at him. The paper's right here. If you don't believe me, there's nothing I can do. Bottom line, this is what happened. Now tell me, how are we dealing with it? Michael frowned, staring at the report as if it could explain itself. I still couldn't tell what was going through his head. After a while, he clicked his tongue. Have you told your dad and mom yet? I said. Not yet. Michael pinched the bridge of his nose, visibly irritated. Meeting you has been 8 lifetimes of bad luck for me. Go home, talk to your parents, then wait. I was stunned. I didn't understand what he meant. Wait for what? Michael was already 3 meters away, leaving me only his back. A proposal? What? Was he going to take responsibility and have me keep the baby? That was hard to imagine. I hurried after him. Actually, an abortion is fine too. Michael stopped for some reason. It looked like he was laughing in anger. Oliver, I've never met anyone as frivolous as you. And with that, he walked away without looking back. I stood there, frozen, at a complete loss. What did he mean by that? How was I frivolous? Damn it, meeting you has been 8 lifetimes of bloody bad luck for me too. That night at dinner, I studied my parents' expressions. They seemed okay. I picked at a few lighter dishes. Halfway through the meal, my mom put a piece of braised rib in my bowl. The second I caught the smell, my stomach flipped. Forget eating it, I pushed it right back into her bowl. My mom frowned, confused. Why aren't you eating? I can't, I said. She stared at me suspiciously. Because something was off, really off. That's not right. You love ribs. Are you feeling sick? My mom pressed. My dad also looked over. I sighed. In the end, I still had to face it. I put down my chopsticks. So, there's something I need to tell you. Promise me you won't get mad. Both my mom and dad fixed their eyes on me, waiting. I forced the words into order and said, I'm pregnant. The moment the words fell, the room went so silent you could have heard a pin drop. My mom looked like she turned to stone. My dad wasn't doing much better. After a long while, my mom finally asked, still unable to believe it, pregnant? Who's pregnant? Did you get someone pregnant? Or did someone get you pregnant? I repeated myself, I'm pregnant. My mom choked on the words, still trying to process what I just said. My dad hurriedly asked, are you sure? This isn't a joke. You're an alpha. I'm sure, I said. Absolutely sure. My dad went quiet too. It took the two of them a long time to recover. My mom finally asked, whose child is it? Michael's, I said. My dad and mom froze at the same time, exchanging a stunned look. Honestly, Michael's parents and mine could even be considered old colleagues. They kept in touch regularly. That just pushed the absurdity of this whole thing up another level. My mom let out a long, heavy sigh. Does Michael know? What did he say? I rubbed my nose, trying to ease the awkwardness. He said he's coming to propose. I was pretty sure my parents felt like they still hadn't woken up. They grilled me for ages about how Michael and I had ended up together, and I answered. Honestly, in the end, their verdict was perfectly unanimous. I had it coming. I wanted to cry, but no tears came. The next day, Michael arrived with his parents. He was dressed quite formally, looking proper and presentable. They talked in the living room. I hid by the dining area and listened in. It was basically the usual, how our families knew each other, how we understood each other's backgrounds, how it was fate that Michael and I had come together, and how, since I wasn't showing yet, we should hold the wedding early. I listened, on and off, poured myself a glass of water, and lost track of what they were saying. Then Michael suddenly turned to look at me. His voice was gentle when he called Oliver. Come here. I nearly sprayed water all over the floor. Since when did he call me that intimately? And that smile so fake it was insulting. Fine. We're acting now, are we? Watch me disgust you to death. I set down the cup, squeezed out the most obnoxious smile I could manage, and put on a syrupy voice. Michael, I'm coming. Michael's smile froze instantly. If people hadn't been watching, I was pretty sure he could have performed a full-on twitching mouth corner right there. I leaned in, sat down next to him, and blinked at him sweetly. Michael took my hand in a way that looked affectionate, except he squeezed a little warningly. I was fairly certain he wanted to say, that's enough. I raised an eyebrow at him, completely unfazed. Then I leaned closer, practically sticking myself to him. Resting against his side, Michael's body stiffened, but there was nothing he could do about it. HMPH. You said I was being pathetic, then I'll be pathetic for you to see. My parents stared at me like they didn't recognize their own son. Michael's father quickly smoothed things over. Look at how good their relationship is. There's nothing for us to worry about at all. My parents chuckled along, but I could tell it was forced. After that, there really wasn't much left to talk about, just wedding preparations and a bunch of miscellaneous pleasantries. Leaning against Michael, I listened in boredom. I got sleepy, and at some point, I actually dozed off. When I regained awareness, I was already in Michael's arms. He carried me back to my bedroom and laid me on the bed, half asleep. I mumbled, "Done talking." He didn't answer. Instead, he teased, "So you're not calling me Michael anymore?" Oh, so he was still stuck on that. Seeing the look on his face, I wanted to mess with him again, so I said on purpose, "If you want to hear it, I can call you that, Michael. I won't just call you Michael, I'll call you husband, too. How about that?" Husband, the word sounded so sticky sweet it made even me want to wash my mouth out with dish soap. Michael fell silent. He stood there for a moment, then walked out. I rolled around on the bed laughing until my stomach hurt. Soon enough, it was the wedding day. A lot of people came. What annoyed me a bit was that, in the typical wedding routine, I was the omega side. We were both in white suits, but I was still annoyed. Michael was the one who looked more like an omega, if you ask me though. Okay, that was a bit of a stereotype, sigh. But what could I do? I was the one who was pregnant, and the one who always got pinned. I could only swallow this humiliation for now. Just wait, Michael, your day will come. After a bunch of messy procedures, the officiant finished the vows. I got secondhand embarrassment so hard I broke out in goosebumps. While Michael looked completely composed, then it was time to exchange rings. The ring bearer brought them over. Michael reached to take his, and I snatched it first. Michael looked at me, puzzled. I only lowered my voice, awkward and stiff. "Give me your hand." Michael seemed to let out a small laugh, a touch helpless, but he held his hand out anyway. I slid the ring onto his finger first. There, much better. I didn't even know what I was doing when Michael put the ring on me. The corners of his mouth were lifted the whole time. It didn't look like he was acting. I had no idea what he was smiling about. I couldn't see what was so funny. Once the rings were on, it was time for the kiss. I tilted my face up slightly to look at him. This time, he cupped my face and kissed me without realizing it. I was at a disadvantage again, tongues tangling. I tasted something sweet in my mouth. When we finally parted, my mind was completely blank, because he'd pressed a piece of candy into my mouth, blueberry mint, cool and sharp, rushing straight to my head. It was the taste of his pheromones. I stared at him in disbelief. He only smiled to wake you up a bit. No, what kind of person uses candy that tastes like their own pheromones to wake someone up? That was cheating, completely unfair. He had to be seducing me. And for some reason, I suddenly wished that candy wouldn't dissolve so fast that the taste would just stay in my mouth. Like this. But it was too late. He'd already eaten half. And what made it to me was only a tiny piece. I hooked my arm through his as we went to toast the guests. He handled everyone with ease, responding appropriately to every remark, every joke, every congratulations. He looked so proper, so gentle, so reassuring. And yet this was the same person who always kept people at arm's length. Impossible to read. No one could tell what he was thinking, or what his sincerity really was. But he was also the kind of person who made you want him anyway, even knowing exactly how moths ended when they flew into flames. Sigh. Fine, fine. What can I do? I like him. Beautiful man, I've fallen for you. At last, once all the ceremonies ended and all the miscellaneous chaos was dealt with, we could finally go back and rest. The moment I collapsed onto the bed, I felt every muscle in my body relax, but after lying there for a while, a strange restlessness crept in, an emptiness I couldn't quite name. From today on, I was going to live with Michael, but Michael slept in a separate bed. The moment we got back, he hugged his pillow and went straight to the guest room. Who does that on the first day of marriage? Even if he couldn't stand me, did he really have to go that far? And then, what was that candy during the kiss? What was he trying to do? Seducing me like that? I didn't know why. Maybe taste and sense just stuck in your memory more sharply than anything else. I found myself thinking about that candy again. And with it, Michael's pheromones. The more I thought about it, the worse I felt until I couldn't sleep at all. Logically speaking, alphas were born to reject other alphas' pheromones. It was instinct. Rejection meant irritability, discomfort, disgust. But right now, all I wanted was to smell it, no matter the consequences. Damn it. The more I thought about it, the more I made up my mind. No matter who had to suffer, it wasn't going to be me. So you look down on me, huh? Then I'm going to go disgust you with that. I hugged my pillow and knocked on the guest room door. When Michael opened it and saw me, he froze for a moment. His gaze swept up and down my body, and he asked, "What is this? Are you about to become homeless?" I was already irritated and couldn't be bothered with his teasing. I shoved past him, walked into the guest room on my own, and burrowed straight under the covers. There was still some of Michael's warmth lingering inside, cozy and warm. Much warmer than the master bed. It was comfortable enough to make you sleepy. Having someone warm the bed for you really was nice. Michael stood there in the doorway, laughing in exasperation. What's gotten into you? Why are you so angry? Or is it that you love me too much you can't bear to be away from me, so you came to me? For warmth? He was doing it on purpose, trying to gross me out, exaggerating so shamelessly. But I was already married to him. I even had his kid in my belly. Was I really going to lose to him now? I rolled over and smiled at him. Yeah, I love you so much I can't stand it. Without you I'm lonely, miserable, freezing cold, and I can't sleep. So what? Michael clearly hadn't expected me to say that, his brows knit. What? Then I patted the space beside me. So, husband, come sleep with me, will you? If I don't rest well, that can't be good for the baby, right? I bit down hard on the word husband, putting extra weight on it, obnoxious beyond all measure. And then I watched Michael's expression shift through red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple until it finally blended into black, like a human color palette. Michael closed the guest room door and walked to the bed as if resigning himself to his fate. I'm honestly scared of you. What I said before was right, meeting you has been 8 lifetimes of bad luck for me. I lay back, thoroughly satisfied. You flatter me. You flatter me. Michael lay down beside me and reached to turn off the bedside lamp. I quickly pressed my hand over his. He looked impatient. Now what? Fast as lightning. I yanked open the collar of his sleep shirt and peeled off the scent-blocking patch. On his gland, the faint scent of an alpha's pheromones began to spill out, light and thin, almost imperceptible. Michael jolted. What are you doing? I pressed up against him and said, nothing. Just being a little hooligan. And then I brought my nose close to his gland, so close I was practically touching, and inhaled with deliberate, serious focus. It was a pretty perverted thing to do, but he was my husband. What was wrong with letting me smell him a little, right? One deep inhale, and sure enough, it made me restless. My hand on his shoulder tightened without me even realizing it. But after I pushed through that wave of agitation, the lingering cool, fresh note of his scent smoothed the agitation back down again. It was like instinct and desire were wrestling each other. An alpha falling for another alpha was, by nature, something that went beyond instinct, wasn't it? Again and again until it became an addiction. Annoyed with myself, I muttered under my breath, almost without thinking, this is all your fault. You turned me into a freak who craves alpha scent. Michael's body went rigid, even his breathing grew a little rougher. Then he shoved me off and tried to sit up. I grabbed his arm, refusing to let him leave. What's wrong with you? Where are you going? In the lamplight, I saw his ears were red. Michael gritted his teeth. You little tyrant, I'm a man. What do you think? Something clicked in my brain with a loud buzz. My face started burning. I stammered, words falling apart. You. Michael tried to leave. Again, I hurriedly held onto him. He turned back to look at me, impatient and confused. What do you mean, huh? Considering how much I'd harassed him tonight, I couldn't exactly stand by and do nothing. I mumbled in a low voice. Well, in my situation, I probably can't. But today I'm feeling merciful. I'll help you another way with that. I gave a hard yank and dragged Michael back down onto the bed when everything was over. Michael had an arm around me. It was annoyingly warm. I got sleepy pretty quickly, drifting in and out. The guest bed was much smaller than the master bed, but it was just enough for 2 people. One me, one him. Compared to that huge bed that was nothing but empty show, this was plenty. And because the bed was small, I could stay very close to him, as long as we slept on the same bed. No matter how much we wanted distance, we couldn't. Get it, inking that. I hugged him too tight, like I meant it. The next day, Michael went to work. I slept in until late before I finally got up. I didn't know if it was because of the pregnancy, but I felt unusually drowsy, dragging my foggy head out of bed. I ate a little something when I picked up my phone. I saw messages from a friend. They said they'd called up some of the others and wanted to meet up. I'd gotten married to Michael out of nowhere. Of course, they were going to interrogate me. But it had also been a long time since we'd all gotten together. I forced myself to perk up, tittied up a bit, and went out. When I walked into the private room at the bar, a whole group was already sitting there. The moment they saw me, someone leaned right in and started questioning. Confess. When did you finally take down Beauty Stan? I sighed helplessly. I just helped him a few times. My friend laughed. And you helped your way into feelings? I honestly can't say, I answered, truthfully. For all I knew, Michael had only married me because I was carrying a child and he felt responsible. Whether there were feelings or not, it really was hard to say. My friend looked a little dazed. Then if there aren't feelings, why would he marry you? I hesitated, maybe, because of the baby. The moment I said it, everyone stared at me in shock, like I'd done something earth-shattering. Someone's voice shot up without control. You'd even have a kid? I covered my face, too ashamed to look at anyone. Don't shout so loud, you're insane. Getting an alpha pregnant unprecedented, unheard of, respect. I corrected him quietly. It's me who's pregnant. He was in the middle of drinking, at that. He spit it out in a spray. He wiped the wet mess with a napkin, still not believing his ears. You're pregnant, his dramatic tone made everyone stare at me even harder. God, I wanted to clamp a hand over his mouth dead inside. I shut my eyes and collapsed back on the couch. Noticing my reaction was off, my friend quickly laughed and tried to patch things up honestly. You can't blame me for being shocked. We all thought you were the one on top, yeah. Purely by looks, Michael, despite being a male alpha, was honestly a little too enchanting. His skin was unbelievably pale, like he'd never seen sunlight. So pale it could practically reflect light. When his lashes lowered and his eyes half-lidded, he gave people this illusion of lazy indifference while still somehow holding everything in the palm of his hand. And that mole at the corner of his mouth, it was just tempting. Without realizing it, I started replaying his face in my mind. I drifted off so hard I didn't even notice. It wasn't until my friend called my name that I snapped back. I smiled, and all at once, something in me loosened. What do you guys know? This is what a real man looks like. I can't bear to let him suffer. So what if I'm not the one on top? So what if I'm the one who's pregnant? The kid's still going to call me dad. Truth be told, even if Michael were willing to carry a child, I wouldn't have the heart to let him. And besides, I wasn't really that shallow just for a pretty face when you like a pampered, delicate young master like him. What can you do? You spoil him, that's what. My friend paused, then gave me a thumbs up. Still gotta hand it to you. I didn't comment because what? Was I supposed to say the real reason that I just couldn't be him, and every single time I tried to play dirty I ended up losing even more? Most of the people there were old classmates from our student days. Most had jobs now, and some even have families. Me, too. I guess I had a family now, since it was rare for so many of us to gather. I stayed and played a while longer. The music was loud. The person singing was wailing like a ghost. The people around me were shouting over each other. I didn't notice my phone ringing at all earlier, so I wouldn't be disturbed while sleeping. I turned off the ringer. So, when I finally looked down and saw over a dozen missed calls from Michael, my heart immediately sank. I rushed to say goodbye to my friends, then hurried outside to grab a taxi home. When I got there, the apartment was pitch black. For a second, I almost thought no one was inside. The moment I turned on the lights, I jumped. Michael was sitting on the sofa, staring straight at me. I had no idea how long he'd been watching. Maybe the second he heard movement at the door, he'd already turned his gaze on me. He just looked at me without speaking, and for no reason at all. I felt tense, but then I thought, so what? It's not like I went out cheating. What was I nervous for? So I walked over and sat beside him, pretending to be casual. I tested the waters, reaching for his arm. Husband, why didn't you turn on a light? Michael dodged, not letting me grab him. So you still remember I'm your husband? You didn't pick up your phone. You didn't reply to my text, no message, no explanation, nothing. You're really something. I thought you'd forgotten there's a home here you're supposed to come back to. Oh, so he was angry. I pursed my lips and explained. That's my fault. It was loud in there. I didn't hear my phone. I really didn't do it on purpose. Michael turned to look at me, and a self-mocking smile tugged at his mouth. Then, he said, you don't even know what you did wrong. You're carrying a child and you disappear to who knows where. I don't know anything. You don't leave a single word. What if something happened? Do you have any idea how worried I'd be? You don't have any concept of family at all. What exactly do you take me and the baby for? You only care about your own fun. His words came at me like a barrage, leaving my head ringing. I felt wronged. I'd literally just praised him to my friends. Sure, I was at fault, but I apologized, didn't I? Shouldn't that be enough? He was the one throwing a tantrum like I was supposed to happily take it, but I couldn't bring myself to be tough. I only dared mutter softly. What do you mean I only care about my own fun? We were sitting close. There was no way Michael hadn't heard. He said, isn't that exactly it, Oliver? I thought I could trust that you were serious about me, and in the end, you're still like this, acting like nothing matters. Even when you admit you're wrong, you don't even have an attitude of remorse. One day I'll worry myself sick, and you'll still be like this. Now that really lit a fire under me. I've been cherishing him like a treasure in my heart, spoiling him, treating him like something precious, and over a little thing like this, he was making it a huge moral issue. What was I even doing all this for? Couldn't he just give me a little leeway? Would it kill him to give me a step down? The bastard. My nose stung, tears threatening. That's enough. So you're the only one who's wronged, huh? I already apologize. What more do you want? You ask what I take you and the baby for. Fine, I'll ask you to. Why did you marry me? Dare you say it wasn't because of the baby? How noble are you, really? After I threw those words out, I ran. I didn't wait for Michael to say anything. I bolted upstairs to the master bedroom. Seriously, did he think I had to squeeze onto that crappy little bed with him? It was embarrassing to grown men arguing back and forth over something like this. I'd gotten heated and actually questioned Michael like that. But thinking about it carefully, I had the right to ask. If he really was doing all this only for the baby, then I didn't have to hang myself on this one tree. I thought we'd sulk for a while, give each other the cold shoulder for 2 or 3 days. That's how it always went before, every time. But after I lay there tossing and turning for a bit, I heard footsteps coming closer and closer. Confused, I quickly pretended to be asleep. The door pushed open with a soft creak. Michael walked to the bedside and sighed. Oliver, are you asleep? I didn't answer. But I rolled over, making a little noise. Michael said, I was wrong, too. I shouldn't have been so harsh. Don't be mad at me, okay? What? He was softening first. He of all people always so proud, so self-possessed. He was softening to me? I jolted upright in shock. Seeing my reaction was so big, Michael looked a little embarrassed. He turned his face slightly away. I asked cautiously, what did you just say, Michael? Unbelievably, spoke gently, patient. Even, I shouldn't have been so harsh. I should have asked you properly. Don't be mad at me, okay? You're still pregnant. Getting angry isn't good. There it was again, in the end. It was still about the baby. I got unhappy and lay back down. Must be hard for you to soften to me for the baby. I emphasized the for the baby on purpose. Michael seemed to sigh again. He climbed onto the bed and pulled me into his arms. He held me very close. The warm breath he exhaled as he spoke made me uncomfortably hot. It's not for the baby, he said. All at once, my heart started pounding faster and harder than it ever had, like a drum being beaten. It was as if an invisible drumhead was trembling, vibrating so intensely it made my brain go numb. He explained it. This pretentious bastard finally stopped pretending. My voice came out muffled against him. If it's not because of the baby, then what is it? You'd better make it clear. Marriage isn't some trap you can't get out of once you're in. I don't have to spend my whole life with you. Michael let out a quiet laugh. He slipped a hand out from under the blanket and ruffled my hair. Because of you. I married you because I like you. I want this child because you're the one carrying it. I was harsh. I questioned you. Because I was worried about you. Anything that has to do with you, everything centers on you. And has nothing to do with anything else. Because I've fallen in love with you. Is that enough? I fell in love with you a long time ago. The world went quiet for it, only my heartbeat remained, keeping time. I didn't know who I'd once prayed to. Please let love descend upon my heart, and now love, it seemed, had truly descended. I muttered. You talk so nicely now. Then what were all those times? I suffered for you, those times I gave in to you supposed to mean. You always acted so high and mighty. Every time it was me shamelessly sticking to you. You softened once, and I'm not mad anymore. Your softening is way too valuable. After hearing that, Michael burst out laughing like he'd lost his mind. He gently tugged my nose, not enough to hurt, more like flirting. Then he said, I realized it. I'm arrogant, and you're even more arrogant. Neither of us gives in. And once we start arguing, it gets ugly. You say you're wronged, that you always give in to me. From now on, when I'm the one who's wronged, I'll give in to you. How about that? I pouted. That's not the point. It's not about who's wronged and who gives in. Michael cut me off right away. All right. No. Need to say it. I get it. Because I love you and you love me, so it's not giving in. It's called being tolerant, right? So he knew perfectly well. Even though I'd heard what I wanted to hear, I was still not entirely satisfied. I jabbed him with my elbow. He hissed in pain. Maybe the loved one is always bold. My voice got a lot tougher. So what the hell were you doing before, deliberately? Leaving me hanging so I'd keep licking your boots. Michael cleared his throat twice. Like he was covering something up, he said, "Marriage is long-term. It's a lifetime. Since I married you, I have to take responsibility for every part of you, including your moods." I fell silent, held like that. Sleepiness came quickly. The sleep was heavy. The dreams were long from that day on. It felt like Michael and I had switched positions. I didn't know how to describe it exactly, only that he stopped being snide and sarcastic to me, stopped being stubborn and putting on an act. The snide one became me. I teased him now and then, and most of the time, he just let me. But he had one bottom line: if I said anything like, "After I have the baby, I'm going to pin you," he would definitely straighten his face and say, "That's not allowed." I finally understood. You can't give Michael too much kindness. If you pamper him and put him on a pedestal, he gets smug. But I'm the same. Still, love requires tolerance, right? He said it himself, so I accepted it shamelessly. Giving birth was really not easy, but during my pregnancy, Michael was meticulous to the extreme. To put it this way, later on, the moment I opened my eyes, he'd ask if I wanted him to help me sit up. He even put my socks on for me. With my condition, I could only have a C-section. On the day of delivery, even though everything needed had long been prepared, he still checked the list over and over again. It was almost funny to watch. He only said, "I can't take your place and give birth for you, so all I can do is be as careful as possible and hope you suffer a little less." This is also sincerity offered for heaven to see. I laughed. "Aren't you a materialist? You don't believe in that stuff?" He shook his head. "Not anymore. Now I'm a youist." That line was really something. Maybe it was because Michael truly had sincerity. The delivery went smoothly. The baby was a beta girl. When I saw her, the more I looked, the more I loved her. Since we hadn't known the baby's sex, we'd bought baby supplies in every color. Back then, I'd confidently told Michael, "Believe it or not, it's definitely a daughter." "I've got a feeling." Michael snorted and said I'd gone crazy, and then it really was a daughter. And he had nothing to say. I deliberately teased him. Oh my, who was it that said I'd gone crazy? Look how accurate I was. Isn't it a daughter? So pretty, so cute. Michael stood with his hands in his pockets, brows tightly knit, and said with disdain, "Pretty? What's pretty? She looks like a bald little monkey." The moment that image settled into my brain, I went silent. It kind of really did look like that. After a while, I hurried to patch it up. "Oh, come on, newborns are all like that. She'll grow into it. Besides, you can tell she's a little beauty in the making, okay? Trust your genes." Michael gave a snort. The baby took my surname. Michael picked the given name. In the end, her full name was Parker George. I complained at him, "Such a great surname, and that's the name you choose." His explanation was, "So what?" It had meaning. Her parents were just stubborn mules who said whatever they wanted. She absolutely couldn't inherit that. Fine, I had nothing to say. He had a point. And honestly, the more you heard it, the more it sounded not bad. Watching Michael carefully hold the baby and coax her to sleep, I suddenly felt that this was all anyone ever truly wanted in life. Meeting him. Falling in love with him, there was nothing wrong with it. Even if he was an alpha, even if by worldly logic, he shouldn't be with me, another alpha. Because what I believed in was this: the understanding and love between us had surpassed the body. It was a meeting of spirits. It shouldn't be bound by gender. It shouldn't be misled by the mundane world.